Hi, this is Randy Randall of No Age and host of the podcast Hyphenate with Randy Randall. I want to welcome our newest sponsor of the show, DistroKid. DistroKid helps musicians get their music on all the major streaming platforms, and artists keep 100% of their royalties. Hyphenate listeners get 30% off at distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate. Again, that's distrokid.com/VIP/HYPHENATE. Go get your music streaming everywhere now.
I mean, I guess lightning bolt you have more like and locust is more.
Good morning. Thank you for tuning in to All Things Considered. I'm your host, Warren Alney.
Hello, Warren. I am Arbady Venzivinam.
That's a Star Wars character. No fair.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Just kidding. April Fools. We're probably your first April Fool's podcast that you get streamed into your ear this morning. But this is Monday, April 1st, April Fool's Day. How you doing there, Mr. Zarbadan Farzafin? Mr. Aaron Farley joining me here.
Yes, I'm doing great. We'll see how this one goes. Actually, doing one in the morning after the last one that we did at like 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, the last one was the first podcast I've ever done in my underwear. I was I was about to fall asleep. I was about to fall asleep, and then you texted like, "Are we still recording?" I'm like, "Oh, right." And I ran out here, and my wife Shan was like, "Okay, are you really going out there?" It's like, "I'll be fine." She's like, until you stand up, and then the whole thing's ruined. And I'm like, "No, I'll be
fine. Sure." Yeah, don't worry. I don't stand up.
Yeah, there's very little standing involved.
This is a no standing podcast.
Did you ever have a successful April 1st or April Fool's trick that you pulled or someone pulled on you? I feel like these are always like, big thoughts, big letdowns.
I don't enjoy holidays, to be honest.
Okay. Well, April Fool's Day is a particular kind of holiday.
But it's just one of those.
All holidays that get lumped in, huh? Valentine's. Valentine's is your birthday.
Valentine's is my birthday, so
maybe that's why. Maybe you're curmudgeon. Yeah.
Kind of. I do, or this like St. Patrick's Day, and everyone's like, "Are you wearing green?" I'm like, "Why are we doing? Where are we doing this?" I get it. I enjoy other people having fun with these things, and I would love to just monitor them from the area. But like, I would love to be able to tap out of all holidays and just be there. I'm fine with being there. I just don't want to find a lot of happiness and joy in them.
Oh, this is back to the joy. Yeah, no joy. Yeah. No joy in holidays. Yeah, I mean, holidays are funny. But St. Patrick's Day, I do not drink now. I have not drank for, what are we getting on, 14 years coming up this year? Something like that. Is that right? I don't know. I've lost track. But anyway, no, it's all right. But one of the reasons I don't drink is I had a very exciting St. Patrick's Day. My long list of drunkalog and dumb things I've done. It was some Irish bar in Santa Monica or Venice. I don't know if you ever went out that way, but it was St. Patrick's Day at an Irish bar in a popular, going out, and it was packed. And I remember, I think I was wasted before we got there. I think we pre-gamed somewhere else and just got.
It would make sense.
Yeah, but I definitely remember getting. What was I doing? I definitely remember the first part of the night. I definitely don't remember the last part of the night. But at some point, I was told that I got on a table and started peeing everywhere.
Oh wow!
I think it was a patio. It was outdoors. It wasn't inside. But I think I'd have to check the full story. I want to say this with confidence, but there was something about a patio table and peeing, and then getting kicked out of the bar. So
wow,
one of the many reasons that I don't drink anymore.
I mean, getting kicked out of a Irish pub for being too drunk is definitely a notch on the belt for a drinker.
I have that in my bingo card of dumb shit I did while being drunk.
I was I mean, I had many of years of consuming large amounts of alcohol, but I do have to say that I'm lucky that I was never like a blackout. Like I never had like the 4 beers and then you don't remember I remembered everything. So luckily I had enough.
4 beers would be a lot, there'd have to be a particular type of beers if you're going to black out after 4 beers.
Well, but people that 4 or 5 drinks in, they were like, what happened last night? I'm like,
what?
When did you stop remembering? They're like, yeah, maybe like when we did this. And we're like, that was like 9 o'clock. We were up for like 8 hours after that. But even after however many drinks, I never was like a blackout person, which is good safe. Because then I would always remember the dumb stuff that happened and be like, and feel guilty enough to where that guilt built up over the years to where there was enough guilt to go like,
you remembered everyone else's guilt of all the dumb shit they did.
The times where you think you're having the greatest conversation ever and you're like, oh my God, this is like, I'm having so much fun right now. And then you wake up in the morning and go, oh my God, did I really say that to all 20 of those people over and over again?
Yeah.
Like that must have been the worst. And like half of them are like my sober friends going like, yeah, totally. I'm like, sounds I had a great conversation with them. And then they're like, oh my God, that was not a great conversation. Maybe it was to me. Yeah. It was to me. Yeah. I don't think it was received very well. But what I was going to say is I was lucky enough that usually I would never get to the end zone. If we were playing the football game of drinking, of like getting to the end zone is like all the way done, jumping off the roofs.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Do those kind of things. I somehow skirted most moments of that. So
I had too many touchdowns to be proud of. I made it to the end zone many times to the point where I had to retire. My career was mercilessly cut short. At 29 years old, I had done all the dumb things I could afford to do. My guardian angel was getting tired of looking at me anymore. I'm starting to lose track of how many times I'd got my ass saved.
Well, I think it's rough in your 20s when you still don't have. I mean, we can go back to our multiple podcasts of talking about this, but your 20s when you don't have a lot of the thinking about the future kind of thoughts.
You mean 28?
Necessarily?
Like all the way in the future when you're like going to be 28 years old one day? It's never going to happen? Like when you're ripe old age?
When you're 24 and you're like, oh, all those 27-year-olds, those old guys, they should get out of here. Mm-hmm. But those are also the moments where all the fun things happen. And people are trying to like throw parties and go on tour and do all these other things. And you're like, all these sound like great ideas. What do you want to do? What should we jump off of tonight? That sounds like fun. I'm going to regret this if I don't do it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that thought process is the fact that both of those things happen in the same time period is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, well, I think it's no coincidence. What's like the armchair, neuroscience that males' brains, their prefrontal cortex, which helps them regulate rational thinking, have rational thoughts. It isn't really developed till 25 or later. There's no coincidence that all dumb or many dumb things and many dangerous things are done by men prior to the age of 25.
Yes,
you start to make hopefully better choices post that. That's why you have to be 25 to rent a car.
Yeah,
I think that
exactly.
Some other rental car companies knew this before the scientists knew this.
Yeah.
I don't think their brains are done. Their brains aren't done cooking. Don't let them get a car.
Yeah, they're like we're seeing a lot of data.
Yeah, we know they legally can drive at 16. They legally can drink at 21, but they're not ready. They're still not there yet. Not to rent a car. We're not taking that financial risk.
Yeah, they need to cook.
Yeah,
They need to cook a little bit.
The one thing I can say, the only thing I can say I was ever proud of, the very small amount of things I was proud of drinking is I did have a Guinness in Ireland. I feel like
that's good.
A particular kind of alcoholic, the being able to check one off in the motherland kind of thing of like, okay, well, I did have. Yeah. I walked into a bar in Dublin and said, give me a Guinness, and then you drink it, and then you tell yourself, this is the best thing ever. This is the thing.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's all the same.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah. I've had a Heineken in Amsterdam. I've had a Guinness in Dublin, and you just go like, so it doesn't really matter. It's like saying I had a Coors Light in St. Louis. or what? Or no, Coors Light
I
in
was just gonna
Denver, and
say you had
a
a Bud Light.
Budweiser and a Bud Light in St. Louis. Wow. Had a Corona in Tijuana. Wow.
That's amazing. And then you ordered a Foster's in Australia, and they're like, ugh.
Oh, fuck this guy. Yeah.
Jesus, this is horrible, right?
I drank a Yinling in Philadelphia. It was really something, man. Yeah, it was really, I think but that was a big part of it. It's just, I was fortunate enough to get some travel time, too young, or not too, but when I was young, and then and also drinking to excess. So I tried to play the game of like, well, I'm going to drink the thing that's here. I'm like, I'm a cultural, explorer here. Like, what do the locals drink here? Cut to me in like Bristol drinking Strongbow, like shitty, like cheap apple cider out of a like 2-gallon 2-quart jug,
standing on the deck of the hotel going, I'm a local now.
Yeah. It didn't matter.
Welcome, Randy Randall.
It felt important at the time, to drink what the locals drink and to fit in and do all the fun stuff.
Oh, totally. I mean, that
takes its toll on you.
That was all the fun about all those days, is that like the days seem to last longer. Like days go by so quick now, but it seemed like I was doing, I don't remember. I was looking back at some photos and looking at some timeline of like when things happen. And I was like, oh my God, all this stuff happened in like 12 days. I had like all these shoots and bands and photos, and I'd gone out of town and come back and da-da-da. And I was like, oh, that was like January 7th to January 21st.
Yeah.
And like all this stuff happened in 2 weeks. Like, I don't know if all of that amount of things has happened in a year now, like completely different things. And so I think that also like you're like jamming all of that stuff into the same amount of hours, but somehow there's more hours. I mean, I guess there are more hours because you're up till 3 a.m, no matter what, every night. And then
the more you do, the slower time goes, just like on a on a yearly, annual kind of level.
Totally.
Yeah. If you're like writing a paper, studying for an exam, hanging out with your friends, having band practice, going to shows, seeing an art show, all within, that's Wednesday to Friday. And then Saturday comes in there. Oh, now we're going to go. There's 6 things we're going to go to tonight. We're going to start off at this party. We're going to go to this place, go to that thing.
Yeah. And there's no time. There just was not a lot of time off. Mm-hmm. There was time in the morning to be hungover because you didn't probably have a job.
You mean 11 a.m. the morning?
Yes. Although I was never a sleeper. So unfortunately, I woke up till like 8. I mean, it wasn't great. I always wanted to sleep, and then I'd be up at like 8 a.m. But that all of that time spent was like smashed into this little, like, it was like the compression that would like builds a star or whatever, like builds a sun. It's like you take all this energy and you put it into this little thing. Diamond, yeah. And so there's all this energy, and I feel like that even for me, like I had a really tough time with anxiety in the sense of like going into a group of people and being like, hey guys, I'm here, or whatever. But after a beer,
that's where Fireball comes out. I was just going to say, I take a couple shots of Fireball, some kind of
I didn't
Jaeger.
even need that. I just needed like one beer. Okay. And then I was like, oh, like my shoulders loosen up a little bit. And I'm like, hey, we should take photos. I want to take a photo of you. I want to blow
the social lubricant.
But during the day, it's tough to get something like to put my camera in front of someone's face and be like, hey, why don't we do it? I was like so nervous and whatever. And so it ended up that in the evenings, after a beer or two, not so hard. And like going to shows, taking photos of people at night, friends and whatever, became super easy. And that became like the drug kind of like,
oh, right.
I want to feel comfortable. This feels really comfortable. I don't really feel that. I don't feel super comfortable during the day, like talking to people. And
that's the hardest part.
Not that it's not talking to people, but like, I'm fine talking to people. It's more of like the photography thing is weird because who's in control, right? Like either the photographer is in control and going, I want you to do this. Why don't you do this? if you're shooting portraits or whatever. But like, if you don't feel that control, there's a lot of like, am I trying to capture something? Am I waiting for them to do something? There's just like so much
trying to make something
thought going on. Where after a couple of beers, there's no thoughts. You're
only
just rolling
action.
with the punches. You're just like, this is great. And so I think that became, for me, that became like, oh, I need a couple beers to feel comfortable. When really, I mean, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
I don't really drink I don't really drink anymore. And also even when I do, I'm like, oh, I got a headache.
But I think you said something powerful there with like, the drug is feeling normal, you know what I mean? Or that you do the thing just to get back to like, this is how I should feel all the time. Like, this is I want to just feel normal. And that's so hard. That's really where, I think it's a tricky one. I think a lot of people can relate to that, in the sense that like, I just don't want to feel awkward and weird and all that other stuff that just comes with being a kid or just being weird or just being yourself. It's like, oh yeah, how do you feel? Just feeling comfortable in the world, I think. And, your relationship to whatever drugs, alcohol kind of relate to that. It can become a big thing. It's a huge thing.
Push you towards those things.
Yeah.
Usually it starts with cigarettes because you're like, oh, this feels like, okay. I feel
social or standing around.
Right? My step,
Yeah.
But
I was going to say too, just like the time crunch thing, but towards the end of my drinking career, there was I found I didn't have any time. We're talking like, oh, there was no time. But what I realized is I'd pretty much be like useless after 7:00, maybe 5:00. You know what I mean? Because I would like hold out in the day, and so I'd have to get so much done from like 10 a.m. till 4. I had like a short window of time to kind of be, hungover and then try to get it together, get some work done, pay a bill, do something, write an email. And then I knew it was almost like I was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or werewolf kind of scenario. Like, I know this is like, if I didn't get this done by 5:00, I'm screwed because I'm going to be too wasted and I can't, but it was a deflection or it was a thing, So when I first stopped drinking, I found myself like, there's a lot of fucking time in the day. Like, there's a lot of sitting around doing nothing. Like, I think I was bored for the first time in years. I don't think I'd really had that feeling of like just sitting around being bored. This is weird. I was normally like felt so pressured or under the gun or so frenetic or anxious or had to do all these things, had to get stuff done. And I realized like, oh, I just was bad at managing my time. I turned into a pile of garbage at 5:00 every day. Like, it's
because you just start drinking and then it was like party time. Yeah.
Not even party time. It was just, that was just the body demanded, the monster, needed to be fed or whatever it was, you're just a wreck at that point. Your time isn't yours. Your life isn't yours after, some level of addiction, it just becomes like, oh, I owe this time belongs to someone else. So I have to get done everything I can during the day. And then I'm just turn it over into then, again, trying to feel normal, trying to just get back to something like, oh, I'm just, not shaky, but just anxious and just upset and just kind of nervous during the day. And then, cause your body needs trying to regulate back to something that's normal. Well, that's terrible. Horrendous.
Then you have a couple of drinks and you're like, oh yeah, right. Everything is fine.
Yeah. But you also don't want to like, you don't want to write, like, you don't want to do work then, now you're just like kickback time. Now you're trying to just, No. Terrible. Anyway, happy April Fool's Day. Happy April 1st. Today's episode is the Justin Pearson episode, the halftime wrap up,
amazing.
Which is very funny. We spent a long time talking about drinking. I don't think Justin has ever taken a drink in his entire life. I don't know if we get into that.
You guys didn't even talk about that.
Okay, yeah. No. I think Justin is very much lifelong straight edge, but I don't know if he necessarily publicizes it that way. But as far as I can tell,
is his.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to just bring up that I thought it was cool when you guys were talking about, crazy tour stories and everything else, but that I had forgotten that you were shooting footage the whole time when you, at the beginnings of the craziness of No Age.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And I know that we had maybe talked about this in the past, but I'd completely forgotten about it. So, are you now going through some of that? You're now going through some of that footage.
Oh yeah, do we get into that? Yeah, it's
figuring that out.
it's a
You
funny
guys kind of
one.
started talking about it.
Yeah. So what the
But speaking of the drinking thing and just kind of shutting that project down because it was too much.
Yeah. I think when stuff started to really ramp up for all the no age things, and the touring and stuff, I really didn't know what to do, in the sense, like, I didn't know, we were just doing that, but I also had this like kind of workaholic-y sort of vibe. Just this feeling like I have to document this, I have to do something. I was also getting entree or getting introduced to like heroes of mine, and this was pre-social media, pre-podcasting, whatever it was. So I thought like, oh, I should make a documentary. I just wanted to document everything that was happening, because it really felt like, my life I got like like Alice in Wonderland or something. Like I'm like now in some other world here, where like I play shows was everything I wanted to do, was go on tour and play guitar and meet all these people that I looked up to and was inspired by. So I started filming it. I had a friend who was an editor, and she knew filmer people, and so we just kind of started bringing cameras around. And it was an idea that it would be a documentary about all ages spaces, because at that point, the smell was sort of what got us started. And I thought, oh, it'd be kind of fun as we get to do all these things, to talk about the smell and talk about all ages spaces that inspired other people, and sort of find that commonality link. So we shot, I think, like 400 hours. We shot all kinds of our shows, other people's shows, but then it got to the point in like 2010, 2009, where we'd probably been shooting for like 2 years, and all this footage, and I didn't really know I didn't know how to make a movie. I still don't know how to make a movie. I was like, I don't know, what do we do? I just shot all this stuff. We had all these great interviews, and then what do we do? And I kind of gave it to my friend to edit. I was like, you figure it out. And she's like, well, we need B-roll, we need all these things. And I'm like, I don't know what any of that means. Like, I'm leaving for tour tomorrow. Like, can you just make a movie tonight with all that footage we've spent the last 2 years?
By the time we're back, we should have something, right?
Yeah, I kept just kind of putting it on her unfairly, and just out of my naivete and not knowing what goes into the whole process. And there was just more that needed to be done. And I think at that point I was definitely I had run out of road and run out of energy, and was also needing desperately to get sober. So I think I kind of had to pull, like, I could feel the house of cards were going to start falling, and I needed to figure out what I could part with. And the documentary and all the footage stuff, I was like, okay, I can't finish this. I tried, I did my best, and I felt a little embarrassed and a little stupid for wasting these people's time. Everybody that generously sat down and let us interview them and all this stuff. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. I just knew how to shoot it. I just knew how to kind of put money at it, do things like that. And so I had to just say, well, let me walk away. Let me take a break from it. And that was in 2009, I guess, 2010. And then now that's what, 14 years, 15 years, 15 years have gone by. Yeah. And so I think we were, and then at the point too, I think Dean even had a comment of like, well, just sit on it. Eventually it'll become, archival, or it'll become a vintage thing. Eventually it'll come back. It'll be valuable to have if you just sit on it for a while. It's either valuable right now or in 10 years, or in 20 years, but right. You don't worry about it. You don't want to put this thing out like 3 years from now, because then nobody will care.
I mean, I think it is interesting to have that looking back. I mean, that movie about New York just came out, right? Well, like with the Strokes and all that. And like, I haven't seen it yet, but even that footage, I was like, oh man, I remember seeing those bands back then, like TV on the radio and like all that. And like, what a weird time like that to see with the expanse of time in between now and then. Like, I think it's so cool to see all that. And it's amazing. This comes back to what I think I mentioned the other day. It was like Leo Fitzpatrick talking about shooting photos and being like, if you're into photography, shoot photos of your friends, shoot a lot of photos of your friends, and then just hold on to them. And like, even if you don't know what to do with them, put them somewhere so you can look at them 20 years from now, because it will be important. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of what it's about. Like, even making music and all this stuff, like talking to Justin. I mean, I think you guys got into some great things about why you make art. And you're like, I mean, why wouldn't you make art? That's why you make it. It's like, there's no why. It's like, you just have to do it. And it's like a compulsion in this sense of like, well, you're making art to create community. Like, you're trying to create the space where you feel comfortable,
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean he's so impressive because I think just the amount of work and the prolificness of everything, all the projects, all the bands he's been in. He just doesn't stop. I don't know if he's ever really taken a breath, and like his record label continues to put out records. I love the thing where he's like, what I think I put the clip in the front of it where he's just like,
Yeah.
I fucking regret every record I put out. I only lose money. He was saying joke in jest, but it's a labor of love.
I regret every moment starting this label. But
Yeah.
then he talks about how much he loves,
Of
like
course.
how much he gets out of it. But it's like he does all the work.
Yeah.
And he also talks about like, yeah, no, I just bounced a check. We're trying to put out a record. But I also love that energy of like, it's not like, oh, I feel so bad. It's like, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I bounced a check. Big deal. Like we still have to figure out a way to put these records out and get him out. And I mean, his energy is insane. Just the way he talks, you can tell he's like 100 miles a minute, like with ideas. Even I just love the personality of a kid when they're a kid and they're like, he's in a band, puts out a record and is not happy with one of the labels or something. And he's like, I just look at like Ian MacKaye and Jello Biafra and I'm like, that's what I should do.
Yeah.
Like, and when he was making that decision, he's probably like 21, maybe, or something like, that seems like something I could do. And I'm like, I'm the opposite. I was just thinking of this. I was looking at these old photos. Someone posted an old photo from college that was like all these bands that, all these people, friends of mine that were all in different bands at that time. And they were in like punk bands and the Pills and Jetpack and all these bands from Pullman, Vic 20, like all these really like amazing bands. And I didn't know, like I had one friend, my friend Bill Zacapico from Spokane. They were in this band in Spokane right when we were seniors. That was like a punk band called Kate Popeden. It was like a play on a no skateboarding sign that had that had like the letters taken off. But I'd go and watch them. I'm like, how'd you do this? Like I have the opposite of that. I'm like, nobody just does things. Like when I was younger, I was like, you don't just like, you can't
just start a label. You just start a band.
You just got instruments and like started. How'd you know how to write a song? How'd you know it sounds like a song on a record. Well, how'd you do that? I have no idea. That is I feel like I'm like 10 years behind of everybody else who's doing stuff. Oh. I catch on like 10 years later. I go, of course. Yeah. It's not as hard as it seems. I think everything is way harder than it seems to be. I was just looking at that photo this morning and going like, man, I wish I would have known now to more, because I have photos of them. That's actually kind of how I started taking photos, was that I had a camera and I started taking photo class, and then all these people are in bands and I'm like, I guess I should probably take some photos of them. But I would have never thought of like, you could just send photos into like a magazine and get it published. I would have been like, no. I remember in college, even one of the kids, when we were graduating, they're like, oh, what do you guys want to do? And I was like, what do you mean, what do we want to do? Like, I'm done with college. Like, I guess I'm going to move back to Spokane. I don't know. And one kid was like, oh, I really want to get my photos in Rolling Stone and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
yeah, I want to go to outer space too. Like, but that's never gonna happen. Yeah, that's
not going to happen. And then like thinking back about that of like, oh yeah, no, you just send your photos in and you meet the photo. I didn't know there was a photo editor.
You at least try. Yeah,
I knew nothing.
Yeah,
I did not do research.
But I think
zero research in me.
What's great is you're saying you just thought things were harder. And I think the reality is they are harder. You were probably actually smarter. The people who don't realize how hard things are, they're the ones that start it. And then, 30 years later are going, this fucking, why did I do this? This is, because you normally, if you would have known how hard it was, you never would have done it. But I think that's part of the beauty of being young and being naive, is like, you just go, I don't know.
Well, and that's
how hard it's going to be.
Of it. Yeah. And that's part of it. To get things started, you have to be dumb enough to start it.
Oh,
and God, I think that's like the key. The key to starting anything is to not be thoughtful and to be kind of dumb.
Yeah, you just start
dumb enough to think that your idea is great enough that everybody's going to love it, and then you start something, and then you eventually go, okay, now I see all the hard parts. Am I willing to keep doing this? Or am I dumb enough to just keep doing it? And I'm like, yeah, probably. And then all the people that are the dumbest do the best
Yeah.
because they just keep going. I don't know. It's fine. And we're just going to keep going. And all we have to do is push. But I mean, I don't know, Justin, the way that he talked about all of his bands, and that like, there's so much kind of, it's just like personal passion and like, well, we're just going on tour and we're doing a thing and we might not make money, but I have to do it. And I think that those are the things that actually pull people in, like the longevity, like people that love the Locust love the Locust.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, there's no like, oh, I mean, kind of, maybe, you know, it's like a love-hate thing. Everyone's like, I don't get it. I don't know. That seems crazy to me, or they're super passionate about it.
I think they were like the Grateful Dead of like, you know, the early aughts,
right?
And that kind of way. They were polarizing, but the fan base was so rabid and so into it. Like, it's funny, even like just looking through like the 31G website and everything, like I just remember the excitement of everything,
Yeah.
all the aesthetic. Like, they had the Locust logo, then they made it into a belt buckle. And it seemed like the most coveted like piece of merchandise ever. Yeah. Like, who could make a belt buckle? Like, okay, I've seen people make stickers, maybe a patch, definitely T-shirts, but a belt buckle? Like, these guys are geniuses. And like, what a, you know, and this is the era of white belts and skinny jeans and big hair. Totally. And they were like the first wave, you know, I think they looked like, you know, like Johnny Thunders, but I didn't even know who Johnny Thunders was at that point. You know, they just looked so cool. And even in the costumes, and it's like, there was layers upon layers of this kind of like social cachet that I think they definitely wielded like a heavy influence across people, at least, you know, in my age and in this particular kind of music scene. It just seemed like they were the, you know, the godheads of this type of thing. And so for me, you know, over the years to just realize they're people, I was like, that didn't seem possible. Like these four skinny guys in weird costumes on stage were like sent from some other world to teach everybody something. Yeah, I drank the Kool-Aid and it hit me like straight like a laser into my brain at the right time and the right age, where it was just like, genius. That's it.
Yeah.
They're doing something, and everybody around knows they're doing something, and it worked for you know, men and women, and everybody just was like, this is it. This is the best thing ever.
Yeah. And to be, I mean, even when he talked about, you know, that he's had people come up to him later that like trans woman who's like, you know, the Locust saved my life, like being accepted and like all of those kind of things of like, yeah, no, that's the reason. These are the reasons why these things happen, because it's like you're creating a space for other people who feel like you to express themselves or feel safe or just like have fun. I don't know.
Yeah, but it
like
was always
the fun part too of like no, like we're creating like 1 hour for you all to just go crazy and like get it all out.
I don't know. An hour would be a lot. I don't know. I think
30 minutes.
30
minutes. That would be like 135
songs with an encore. Yeah, if they could get it through that. Yeah, it was these short bursts of just total chaos and freedom and just wildness, abandon.
Yeah, totally.
Lots of hair products and hands in the air and
oh my god, striped shirts,
kicking.
I feel like because I got to LA in 2000, and then I'm trying to think. I feel like I saw them at the Glass House, and maybe I feel like I saw them twice. I definitely remember the Glass House show. They were in like the small room at the Glass House.
Oh yeah.
And it was, and I didn't know them. I mean, I knew of them, but I'd never seen them. And just going in and just going, oh, this is a thing. This is like this is its own. So someone trying to explain to me the Locust, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll probably like that. I like heavy music, and and then you hear it, it's like, and I'm like,
brilliant.
Oh, this is like, okay. Yeah. I'm here for it.
I wasn't prepared for that. Yeah.
I feel a little old. I'm like 26. I'm the old guy in the room.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It must have been just the age and everything. I don't know. It was really fun. I think it was, you know, I talk about it in the interview, but with, our dumb band that I had right out of high school opened for them in the Inland Empire, and just everything about it was just like, this is so cool. We get to open up for like the best band in the world right now, and like our little dumb band, I think, was such an imitation of that sort of, the power violence was the genre.
Mm-hmm.
And it was new to me. Like I did not grow up with that or understand, whatever that was. It was something that was introduced to me when I was, you should play bass in our band. Like, okay, what are you guys playing? We go, wah, 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 wah. Just for 30 seconds. We all start on this fret and then we all end on that fret, and whatever happens between, those 30 seconds. I was like, all right, you guys play live? Like I was so at that point, so just done playing in my bedroom. Like I did not want to make another like sad drum machine song on my 4-track. That was the idea of being outside with other people and playing wherever it was, backyards or like, record stores or just it was all exciting. My social like need was just off the charts. I'm like, yes, if this band plays in venues, I'm there.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. I mean, I think that, and that's the cool thing about growing up in proximity to a city, I think, is that there's like the possibility of seeing, or I guess seeing possibilities in front of you, of like meeting someone who like, what do you do? Oh, I go on tour. What do you mean you go on tour? Oh, we just play in every single city, and then we come home and work at a restaurant, and then we make enough money to go out and fix the van and play in every city again. And you go, I didn't know that was a thing. That's a real thing.
You're telling me you could be Superman? Okay, Batman. You could be just Batman if you worked enough shitty jobs and stayed up late enough and played music. Yeah, you could just You have your own Batmobile. You have your own cool clothes. You go, people know who you are. You have a logo.
We make our own shirts. We make our own shirts, and we sell them, and then we make like $48 a night.
Yeah, that part doesn't matter. We sleep on floors.
But we make enough money to eat, or maybe potentially eat, and potentially get gas. And
but you also
get to the next city.
We all weigh 110 pounds, so the eating isn't really that important. Our metabolism is off the chart, and we can't afford food. So we're fine.
Top ramen and oatmeal, and we're good.
Yeah.
And someone eventually in the evening gives us some beer, and lets us sleep on their floor. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Sounds like a dream.
Yeah. No, I think, Justin was just such a big part of my sort of like motivating factors of just people that I thought like, wow, they have it figured out. This is great. And I think I was shocked to see how surprised he was to hear that also, because it seemed like he must get that all the time. I'm sure I'm sure there's hundreds, if not thousands of people, in the same situation that would, that could tell the same story to Justin for everything that they did and everything, and all the other bands he did and the label and all the stuff. It really seemed like, specifically to Southern California and San Diego, it was sort of the epicenter of a lot of that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and to have, I think that you kind of hit it on the head when you were telling him that they seem so professional. And I know he doesn't seem that or say that, but that I think what I got from that too was that they had like a thing. Yeah. They weren't just like 4 people showing up and playing songs. Like they had the songs, but then they also had the look, and they had the vibe, and they had but it was also like a logo.
You're right.
Like a logo
at a time when the logo wasn't a thing. Yeah.
Wasn't like just their name and Green Day or whatever. It was like, no. They have a locust that's cut in half, and that's it. And you can put it anywhere.
And dark enough.
Still see, like, you still see locust shirt. Like you still see people walking around with locust shirts and
iconic
stuff. And that iconic thing.
It was, I was so stoked that he agreed to jump on the mics and talk about all that stuff. But I think what I was saying too in the beginning, I didn't know if my intro to the episode was too much, because I always kind of came to Justin specifically. I think the locust was one thing, but then Justin as a sort of personality, or JP, it always felt like there was a lot of sass and a lot of like poking people in the eye with a stick, just because, and there was like the lore. We didn't even get into it, but I know he has a whole film, he has a film about his life, but he was on like the Jerry Springer show, like they concocted this whole thing. And so there was a sense of like brand awareness before that was a thing. Like pre-social media, he was creating a mythos, or at least a public persona that I don't think necessarily was far away from his personal persona, but I think he was aware of this type of like media savvy and character building and narrative building around himself as a person, even outside of the band, that I think oftentimes, it would be not necessarily just to get attention, but to say things, to shake things up, and to sort of, be polarizing in some way. But it was never went as far as like a Gigi Allen type of, exploitative, horrible person. But there was also a lot of just kind of like brat. I don't know is the right word for it, but something like to I don't know. Like a reputation would precede him.
Like he could see opportunities to put in that's not just in music. Like see those opportunities. I mean, I think so. Like I follow him on Instagram, and there will be the times where he's, just going off on something that needs to be gone off on, and he doesn't seem to it doesn't seem to be putting in a lot of thought whether it's going to go one way or the other. Like he's just, it seems like he's just not afraid to speak his mind and be like, I don't know, whatever. Yeah. This is all I have.
This is how I feel.
Yeah,
this is what it is. Like, yeah,
like this is what I have.
Everybody should listen to me now. Talk about this thing.
And it's up to you to like take it whatever way you want to take it. But I'm going to be like honest about it, which probably kind of goes against in a lot of ways the marketing thing too. It's like usually the people that are really good at marketing and like logos and design and are also going to be savvy about like, okay, where are we going to go with this? Which way and he seems like it's all, I mean, even like I said, the way that he talks, it's like, it's quick and he's fast and he's energy, and it's like, he's just getting it out there, and that like, it's up to you. Like, yeah, like it or not, I don't know. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other. That's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah. No, it's such a unique individual. And I think he's not afraid to express himself, and wherever I think let the chips sort of fall where they may. Like he's not a politician. He's not running for office in that kind of way. You know what I mean? Where it's got to be friends with everybody. I think that was sort of the feeling I got of it too. There was this sort of like a big personality in a time and place in a scene where big personality, where it was sort of, on a Fugazi sort of way of like, oh, okay, where everyone's very politically correct or very, you know what I mean? I think there was a lot of like, mind your P's and Q's in this particular kind of underground punk DIY scene, where you could have opinions, but you had to really, sort of hold the space for everyone else. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that he hasn't done that, but I think again, it was, just a big personality that I think sometimes, I just recall it in the moments of being like, whoa, okay, what is this? What is going on here? Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I think maybe that was it. I was a kid and just wasn't prepared for that type of energy in that particular type of scene.
He's not, he doesn't seem to be afraid if all of the attention is on him. Right, like, and some people are like, some people like they don't want the attention of like, I just want to do my thing and blah, blah, blah. And he seems to be like, no, I'm here.
Fuck that.
I'm doing a thing. I'm going to be like, like a different or the same person, or maybe seemingly a different person on stage. And I mean, I think that interesting thing is that genre was called power violence, but it was like the kind of the least violent people in the crowd. It was like very emo, kind of like,
right?
Like you're getting your violence out, but it's personal violence. Like you're not being violent towards anybody.
Right.
You're just like allowing yourself to be, to feel those feelings by yourself. I mean, within a group of people, but by yourself. You're not being violent. It's not like a hardcore show where people are potentially like kicking you in the face in New York or something,
Right.
Like, it's like power violence, but it's like nice people.
Yeah. It was definitely a type of oxymoron, but I think that's what was so unique too. Is just that it was there was a time and a place where this all sort of made sense, and it was threatening enough in a very kind of non-threatening sort of way. We're like, it was almost like the content of the music itself, was so loud and brash.
Yeah.
And so sort of crazy.
But but also maybe it's threatening enough to keep everybody else away. And like, if you understood it, you could be in there and be like, guys, it seems threatening, but it's all a bunch of like really nice people, but don't tell anybody. We want to look threatening with like a crazy hair and like spikes and the whole thing. But like, really, that's just to keep everybody else away so we can all have our fun.
It's probably closer to like WWE or like backyard wrestling or something.
Right. Which a lot of those kids, like that early 2000s, there was a lot of like backyard wrestling, like pop-up things. I remember going to shows where there would be like wrestling beforehand.
Yeah, or like Fort Thunder. There's a lot of wrestling and characters and costumes and these types of things.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting that you're interviewing all these people that are kind of from that time and seeing those, like seeing all the differences of like the Rhode Island kids, what they were doing. And like, I would say like Lightning Bolt and the Locust have a lot of similarities, like music wise and like the craziness but they kind of also couldn't be more different, you know? I mean, Lightning Bolt, the Brian wears the mask and it's all very like artsy, like design wise. And they always had like super crazy albums and art and everything else. But like, but also the Locust and like maybe the fans or the like couldn't be more different. You know,
I'm just thinking we should definitely
be more different. But
we should do a series where we like show you know, Lightning Bolt and the Locust to our children and ask if they could tell which one's which.
Which one's which? Yeah, totally.
Like, can you tell the difference?
That one has alien eyes, so that's the Locust.
Or like how far? Yeah, like, you know, kids react to music. Like, okay, you know, kids react to power violence. Like, what do you think of this? Yeah,
like my dad's crazy.
I guess that's more death metal. Yeah, even that's kind of inappropriate. Like,
we used to listen to a lot of Lightning Bolt on the way to preschool.
Oh wow,
that was all the like get them ready, get them all psyched up, jazzed up for preschool.
That's incredible. Yeah.
I mean, I guess Lightning Bolt you have more like and Locust is more like one's more muffled than the other. I don't know, but it's San Diego.
There's our clip. There's our social media clip.
San Diego is interesting too. I love him because I forget
San Diego,
but that when he's like talking about going to Mexico with Rick Froberg.
And right, well, he was the kid the junior class.
And he was like the kid, but then also just the amount of music that has kind of come out of that. And then I was just seeing this morning someone posted something about John Reese, some new band. I don't know. There was just someone saw them like, oh, this, or maybe it was Swamis and the something. I don't know. But I'm like, and he's another one. It was like, oh yeah, San Diego. It's like the prolific. And the first Sabertooth Tiger show we ever played was at the Che Cafe.
Oh wow! Yeah,
at a benefit show for a kid who got during the early 2000s got raided by the FBI, and he was a kid who he was putting up stuff on the internet like the Anarchist Cookbook, and they came and raided his house. And what was his name? Sherman. I don't remember his last name. Whoa. I feel like it's Sherman. And they had raided his house, and they had found Snapple bottles and said that he was building Molotov cocktails. And because of the laws for the terrorism at that point had been changed, that
post 9/11.
Post 9/11, he was a kid, and he was getting prosecuted under the terrorism laws because he had put up like 2 pages of the Anarchist Cookbook on his website. And so that was our first show was like, hey, do you guys want to come down and play this benefit? Because Chris is involved with all of that and KPFK and everything. And we're like, oh yeah, no one's coming to see us. They don't know who we are. Doesn't matter, man. Doesn't matter. Let's go. We'll open up. But that was like my first foray as a band, and we played a couple benefits from there. Again, we had no fans, so we
the benefit was really for you.
We'd bring our 10 fans in, 10 people who'd go,
ooh,
nothing. That was loud.
Yeah,
I like that. That was loud. That's awesome. Is it as loud as my dog barking in the background, fighting with my cat? But San Diego was cool. I mean, that was completely like packed. But also, like, there were some other people there. There was a lot of bands and stuff. But
Che Cafe was cool. I mean, it's super. Between the Casbah and the Che Cafe, I feel like San Diego's always been a place for live music and shows, and there was always something going on.
Yeah,
it wasn't far from LA.
Yeah, and it was separated enough from LA that it had that like smaller town weirdness, but still and like doubly amazing music. Like I think the other time we played there was at the Casbah and was with Earthless and Quee with David Yao.
There you go.
Oh man, David was speaking of our earlier
not
conversation
sober at the time.
He was getting sick in the garbage can before sound check, and they played one of the most amazing shows. They played, and he was great. Kui was amazing. David Yao is unbelievable, and they opened with an encore. So they had their encore first. They played one song, and
left
then
the stage.
They left the stage for like 10 minutes, and everyone's like, "Is that all we're getting?" And then they came back to an anti-encore and played their whole set. It was amazing. And Earthless, like Mario Rubicabra.
Yeah.
Rubicabla.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Mario. It's like best drummer maybe ever. This is so amazing to watch. But then and everyone there is like there to see music. I don't know. San Diego is like obviously huge, like Hot Snakes, Jehu, that whole thing. So it's great to. But even when he talked about it, you're like, oh yeah, all this. Of course, you were happening also at the same time as Hot Snakes, and it's like that's amazing that the Locust and Hot Snakes are in the same
universe,
the same time city. Happening at the same time, same city, same people, same friends, same everything, and those two bands. Like I feel like that's the San Diego thing, is that all those bands kind of also. I mean, you have like Antioch Arrow and then Chris was from or went to school down in San Diego, so his who played bass in Sabretooth, that he knew all of those guys from from being there in the 90s. So then he had all of those, seeing all those bands back then, and so it's cool.
Amazing. Super cool.
It's cool to hear.
All right. Well, I will let you go on with the rest of your week. I hope your April is good. I hope there are no other big April Fool's pranks played on you today. Good luck. Good luck out there. I hope everybody survives their April Fools.
Don't get fooled, or do get fooled if you like that kind of thing.
Yeah. I know. I got to see what my kids have cooked up for me. I'm sure they will spring something on me.
Oh man. I just hope my kids forget.
Watch your back today, everybody. That's all we're saying. If you listen to this in the morning,
look both ways.
Yep. All right. All right. Well, I'll see you on Thursday.